Welcome into the VandySports Podcast on the 440 Sports Network. I'm your host, Billy Derrick, alongside Joey Dwyer here on a Tuesday morning of Thanksgiving week. Got a lot going on. We got basketball game late Thursday night against NC State in Vegas. Of course, it's Tennessee week. I'm getting some feedback there. I think I'm good now, Joey. You got me?
Yeah, you're fine.
I was getting some feedback there. Anyways, basketball late Thursday night. Football in Knoxville. Joey will be there, so we'll get we'll touch a little bit on football, but a lot of basketball today, and we'll also get to some of the mailbag questions, and we'll get to some of the comments that pop up as well. But today's show is brought to you by the Wash House. They are the premier sponsor for basketball season. Are you dreading laundry day? Is it stealing time to do the things that you truly enjoy? Well, let the laundry professionals at the Wash House take care of that for you. With 2 convenient locations in the greater Nashville area, just drop off your dirty laundry, and their professional attendants can give you back the one thing you can never have enough of, your time. Within 24 hours, you can pick up your nicely folded, fresh, and clean laundry ready to be put away. Log on to washhouseclean.com. or stop in today and get your time back. All right, Joey, let's start with basketball. Of course, we were there Friday night, the win over Central Arkansas. We, of course, had the, I don't know if you call it last minute thoughts, rapid reaction after that. Let's start there, Joey. What's in your mind? What's the mood around this program right now? And how are they? I mean, what's the feeling right now heading into Vegas? A huge tournament, a bigger tournament than we thought it might be. Right before the season, we talked about it. Yeah, that's big. If you split it, you'll be all right. But now I think you go 2-0, Joey. Not saying it's going to happen, but if that does happen, all of a sudden the tide has turned a little bit, and that would be exactly what the doctor ordered for this team.
Yeah, I think the move's a little bit better internally than it is externally. I think externally, maybe even a bit internally, I don't know. It's tense, Billy. I mean, they're 3-1. Certainly doesn't feel that way, and it hasn't looked that way. Obviously, they don't have 3 of their best players, including probably their best player. So you take everything with a grain of salt at this point. But I think the fan base is really nervous about what is to come here, and I think they should be. Obviously, there's early season Ken Palm, you take that for what it's worth, but Billy, they dropped 60 spots, and you want to preface that with saying it's early and such, and who knows, maybe they could go up 40 if they beat NC State, but right now the numbers are the numbers, and right now the on-court product is the on-court product. They've probably played 2 good halves of basketball. Central Arkansas lost to SIUE last night, so that tells you not a great team, didn't have its best player. Vanderbilt only beat it by 4. USC Upstate lost to South Carolina by 30. Presbyterian has a loss and was on an 18-game losing streak heading in. So you look at what they've done so far, and they haven't really blown you away. But I think the glimmer of hope is pretty obvious here that Vanderbilt hasn't had 3 of its best players. And I think you have to preface everything with that. 2 wins with those best players, or even without them, would do wonders for this team. And it feels like that could maybe flip the narrative on its head. And Vanderbilt's created that narrative for itself. It's not the stupid media making up this stupid narrative. Vanderbilt hasn't played well. It hasn't been pretty. And maybe it can be a little more pretty with those 3 guys on the floor. Right now, though, we have to go off of what we've seen on the floor, and that hasn't been awesome, Billy.
No, it hasn't. And Joey, I think, the margin of victory still gets at me right now with this team. Like, it would have been one thing if they were to, after Presbyterian, totally get back on track and dominate USC Upstate, win by 20 plus, right? Get a good win over UNC Greensboro. The Greensboro game honestly doesn't. I think the fact that they won is kind of I hate saying feather in their cap after the Arkansas loss, but I mean, the margin of victory to me over Greensboro doesn't matter really as much because that's a good basketball team.
Mm-hmm. They covered,
and yeah, they covered, and so that doesn't worry me. But the Central Arkansas, I just, for the life of me, Joey, don't know why this team can't put away an inferior opponent. Like you covered them last year. Of course, I've been in tune with this program, specifically under Stackhouse. Now, I'm sure other programs have had this issue before as well. And I think around the country, Joey, this is prevalent. And we saw Arkansas lose. You just talked about all those losses. I think Missouri lost to Jackson State, who was 0-5. And after the game, Dennis Gates, just an all-time quote, Jackson State's the best 0-5 team in the country right now. So they're
also the only 0-5 team in the country at the moment.
Yeah, there's the same sort of like the silliness we think is this program. I think the same silliness goes on at other programs as well, especially in a huge transfer portal age. These coaches, Joey, I just don't think are really having a ton of fun. Because there's just so much going on every offseason. And you got to figure out a way to put a winning product on the floor. So I think Vanderbilt's dealing with a little bit of that. But Central Arkansas, Joey, I still look back at that as a kind of a missed opportunity, right? A chance to maybe not move up necessarily in Kent Palm, but almost plateau a little, like stay where you are, not move back. Almost 60 spots, I think we saw since that Presbyterian loss. So that was an opportunity, Joey. So now heading into Vegas, those opportunities don't really present themselves. The opportunities are you got chances to win and beat opponents that, quite frankly, are better than you.
Right. NC State's a team that I think a win would do wonders for. Vanderbilt lost to them last year. And I want to mention with Ken Palm, too, it's like the numbers are the numbers, Billy, and we have to go by the numbers. They also were hurt by the Kentucky game falling off the resume and games like that because Ken Palm factors in the final 10 of the last season.
Right.
They dropped towards the beginning of the year, but that's not an excuse, Billy. They dropped 60 spots. So that's something you look at, but also you say they haven't done enough. They haven't won. And I want to talk more about basketball and not only about numbers as well. I think not having Lubin and Dort really hurts them as well, just because you talk about that put away ability. I think to stop a 4 or 5 minute scoring drought like they've had at times this year, you need a guy that you're able to dump it down to in the post, and he can go get you a bucket, or you want to have a guy on the perimeter like Tyron Lawrence you can have, and he can go get you a bucket when nobody else can. And it feels like without those three guys, they're susceptible to those long scoring droughts. They have guys playing out of roles. Colin Smith comes to mind in particular there. I don't think Colin Smith has the off-the-dribble ability to be a number 2 option at this stage of his career. I think that's Tyron Lawrence and Ezra Bonyon. Colin Smith's going to have guys who create it for him, and he's played well, Billy. He's had 2 straight double-doubles the first 2 of his career. Vanderbilt hasn't had a guy to do that in a few years, so it feels like Colin Smith's taken a step forward, but he's playing out a role. Tassos Kamateras having to play a lot more minutes at the 5 than he would generally have to play. Same with Carter Lang. So there's guys playing out a role, and it feels like that's kind of why this thing isn't pretty. But also, Billy, Stack said in the first game they had enough. And I think that's kind of where I go back to. It's like you're an SEC school. You should be beating a team that came in on an 18-game losing streak, and that's going to hang over their head for a while. But you have a chance to forgive some evils when you play NC State, and then you either see BYU, which would be a quad 1 game. Arizona State, I think, would be a quad 2 or 3. But I think that's a team that will get maybe not better throughout the year, but will look better on your resume as it goes. So going 2-0 and winning a tournament in Vegas would forgive a lot of evils. It would completely flip this thing on its head, at least from an outside perspective.
Yeah, I want to hop into the chat room here for a second, Joey. Brought to you by Sutherland and Belk, family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt or in an accident, give Taylor or Russell a call at 615-846-6200 to see what your rights are and if they can help. It's actually a good question here from Knox Tootal. Say all 3 are healthy. What would you think the conditioning would look like? Back-to-back games in Vegas seems like a tough ask for heavy minutes from Lawrence, Lubin, and Dort. That's a great question. And I think Stack hit at that, Joey. I want to say it was the Central Arkansas presser talking about how much they would play. I think I heard 10 to 12 minutes from Lee Dort. Right. So, and then I think that would probably be the same deal for a guy like Dort as well. Again, or for a guy like Lubin. But again, the only guy that he said would legitimately play in Vegas was Lee Dort. So all of a sudden, it's kind of weird, the timeline now. All of a sudden, Lee Dort has kind of gotten back to somewhat of playing shape. I don't know. That word shape is big, right? I mean, are these guys able to hop in? I think Tyron Lawrence should be fine. I don't think we'll see. I would be surprised if we see Tyron Lawrence, especially in that first game. I think we might see him in that second game a little bit, but don't get your hopes up, guys, on Tyron Lawrence. Again, I think that game after Vegas, next game after Vegas would be a better landing spot for Tyron. But for Dort and Lubin, I'm really intrigued, Joey, to see about their conditioning because they haven't. Now they've been practicing, so that we can't forget about that. But it's different than throwing yourself in there in a game against a Power 5 opponent, right? This isn't. I think it would be different if you're playing a team like a Central Arkansas or a non-Power 5 team, but you're playing NC State and or BYU and Arizona State. So I'll be watching that. Joey, what do you think? You know anything there on the conditioning of what that might look like for those guys?
I mean, Dort's been cleared for a while, so that's why I think Stack threw out 10 to 12 minutes, because he has been cleared, and I think that they've really been working on that conditioning. Him playing is going to be huge against NC State in particular, against DJ Burns, a guy who's a unit, as Stack would say. I don't think Comateros or Lang are properly equipped to guard a guy like that, so having Dort in that game and just being able to use some fouls and bang a little bit with DJ Burns, I think will be valuable. If Lubin can play, again, I don't know the conditioning. I think he is probably a little bit easier to condition than Dort, because I don't think he carries around as much weight. I think he's a little slimmer. But obviously for a big man, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I'd expect maybe something out of him. He's had a little bit of contact, and that was before Friday. They won't play until Thursday, so I'd expect maybe Lubin to go. That's not based on insight. That's based on what Stack said. Lawrence is interesting. I'm not sure how much they're going to get from him. I do think it's easier for a guard to condition than a big, because they're not banging as much, and obviously they're a little smaller. So guards, I think, can play a lot more. I would guess Lawrence wouldn't be on as much of a minutes restriction as the other two if he's able to play, even if he's not quite as healthy. But, man, Billy, what a bolster that would be to have the three of them back in the lineup. I don't know if they're going to have Lawrence. I think there's a lot that can change between when we talk to Stack on Friday and Thursday, and we don't even know fully what has changed, because, I mean, it's not like he has a broken leg. He's got a sprain. Right. So things can change, and it feels like he's probably trending in the right direction. He's been on the floor a little bit before games. He's been on the floor in the practices, just not going contact yet. So we'll see. I don't really know what to make of Tyron Lawrence right now. I would guess the other two would probably go, but that's not based on insight. That's just based on what Stack said. So, Billy, it'll be a huge boost if they can get them back, not only because of the production they can give, but just because of where other guys can slot into roles. And I think a lot of guys are playing out of role right now. So we'll see. I think if they can go and win a couple games in Vegas, though, even without them, that would be a tremendous boost. And I also want to talk about Israel Magnon. This is a huge opportunity for him as well. You saw him towards the end of the year kind of take a step forward, but Feast Week kind of feels like a week where you can cement yourself to the country as one of the better players at your position. I think Ezra Magnon has a chance to show people that he's one of the better point guards in college basketball. On Thursday, why not Ezra Magnon going on the floor and doing what Braden Smith did yesterday and showing that he's one of the better point guards in college basketball?
Yeah, I'm with you, Joey, and you're right about Feast Week. That's why they won a lot of these big games. People are sitting around at home, eating a bunch of food. They want to see what's on TV, and all of a sudden they see a good basketball game, and Vanderbilt can be a part of that, right? I don't want to say they've performed poorly over the years in these tournaments. They haven't been great though. So I think they, like you said, if they go into Vegas and just look totally different than what they have been, I feel like that's going to be hard to do, though, especially if Tyron Lawrence isn't on the floor, right? I think it's going to be hard for this team. Okay, you've got Dort and Lubin in there, but they're not probably 100% yet. I mean, let's be honest, they probably wouldn't be 100%. And if Tyron Lawrence isn't on the floor, how different could it look? And this NC State matchup, Joe, I think is interesting. I feel like NC State has played Vanderbilt every year in basketball, especially. I know they did last year. Last 3 or 4 years, I know they've played. I feel like DJ Burns is a guy that's been there forever. Down low, I think so far averaged about 15 points a game, shooting 71% from the field. And last year against Liam Robbins, he kind of had his way, and he was able to have a big day. So I look at that matchup and I go, okay, if Vanderbilt doesn't have Dort or Lubin, no chance. But if they've got, I think Stack knows that, right? I think he knows, okay, we get Dort in there to kind of, plug a hole over there every now and then, because Joe, if you have Carter Lang on him, that's not ideal. But if you do have, and and Tassos.
He's probably got 60 pounds on Tassos and probably 30 on Carter.
Yeah. So I don't think that would be the best matchup. But if Dort does play, I think Vanderbilt looks a lot better in that matchup. It is interesting, Joey. It's a late tip off, 9 o'clock Central Time. So it'll be after a lot of the football. What do you look at in this matchup? Because for me, it's all about DJ Burns. If Vanderbilt can limit him somewhat, they've got a shot. But if he just goes off like he did last year, it's hard to envision a win for Vanderbilt. But like we said, Joey, golden opportunity. If Vanderbilt can get a win here, all of a sudden it's like, this team can compete, right? I feel like they've played above their competition over the years under Jerry Stackhouse, or they played up to it, right? Maybe not above to get the win, but they've battled and they've been in these games. So I expect this to be a game, but it's all about Mr. Burns because we saw what he did last year against Robbins.
Yeah, Robbins and Malora Brown really struggle with bigs like that. I'm interested to see what Vanderbilt does with potentially a new look in the front court with Dort and Lubin, who are maybe a little more physical but not as tall as the other two. Again, I go back to, do they have those three guys? Because I think, like you said, even if they have those guys, I think it'll be a bit of a challenge to come out and look like you did in March. I think having the three guys just thrown in there may be a little bit difficult for them to navigate with guys having to go back to old roles. And Tyler Lawrence is going to take a lot of shots if he's in the game, and he's going to demand the ball a lot. And it's a tough adjustment to make. So just seeing if Vanderbilt can do that, if it has the guys back in the lineup, and also seeing how it handles DJ Burns, like you said. I think their guards are pretty comparable to Vanderbilt's. Jaden Taylor's a good player from Butler, but I don't think he's an all-ACC player. Horn, I don't think, is a all-league player either in the ACC. So I don't think the guards are super uncomparable. I think Vanderbilt with Tyler Lawrence and Ezra Young probably has a better backcourt than NC State. On the wing, probably pretty comparable. Down low is where Vanderbilt has to be able to make up some ground, though. And if they can have those two physical bigs kind of just throwing bodies at DJ Burns and rebounding and defending, you got a chance. But if DJ Burns can go for 20 and 13, Vanderbilt's going to have a really difficult time in this game. It's going to have a small margin for error. And DJ Burns is going to be what Vanderbilt has sorely lacked throughout its first 4 games, which is that low post presence who can stop runs, who you can rely on, and who can get guys in foul trouble. So Vanderbilt's going to have to counteract that in some way. Maybe they go small with Tasos Comanteros at the 5, but that hurts you on the other end. So, Billy, I think probably 2 of the 3 most important players in this game are Van Allen Lubin and Lee Dort. Ezra Young is obviously really important. Maybe Tyler Lawrence comes back and is really impactful, but those are the guys I look at and say, if they're back, they got to be ready not only to go in and give them minutes, but to be physical. And what a first game for Van Allen Lubin to be back against DJ Burns, who he's played before in the ACC, but that's not a kind welcome to Vanderbilt, and to playing in the SEC is going back to the ACC and playing against maybe the most physical big you'll see all season.
Yeah, Joey, NC State's a good team. 53 in Ken Palm, and their last 3 games, they've won by fairly significant margins. They beat the Citadel first game of the season. Quentin Malora Brown, of course. That I might go back and watch that
Billy,
matchup.
Did you see what the Citadel did last night?
What they did?
QMB fouled the guy with 0.5 seconds, and then they went down and QMB got fouled, made the free throws, and then he blocked the pass in to win the game. I'll send you the tweet. It's the craziest 0.5 of a second I've ever seen in my life. There was 3 lead changes.
That's wild. QMB's done well at the Citadel, and he's had some tough matchups early on in the season. But yeah, they beat Citadel, they beat Abilene Christian by 20, and then they beat Charleston Southern by 30. It looks like. So of course, Joey, that's the difference for me. That's why they're 53 in Ken Palm. Mm-hmm. They have won by 20 plus in all 3 games, and Vanderbilt has played similar opponents, maybe even easier opponents, and it just has not gotten it done. And so this hurts you. This matters. Look at Tennessee right now. I don't know. People don't want to hear about Tennessee, but last night they just beat a pretty good Syracuse team. They're playing Purdue tonight actually in the Maui Invitational. Rick Barnes is treating this like it really matters, because it does. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying Stackhouse. If you ask Stackhouse, this doesn't matter. If you asked him, he said, Stack, do you care about these first, 3 or 4 games? I'm sure he'd say yes. Yes, we're not trying to go out there and lose, but perception can be reality sometimes, and I don't think there's enough sense of urgency with the entire program. I know, Joey, they got stung by injuries. I know that the injury bug got them. And I know I tweeted about Tyron Lawrence potentially and his potential of playing right against Presbyterian. But at the end of the day, I do think he was hurt. So I think we can slow the brakes a little bit there, but I still think just overall, Joey, you have the guys you have, and Stackhouse said that you can win with those guys. So again, I just wanted to throw that out there about NC State. They have dominated their first 3 opponents. They'll be ready to play their top 50 team in KenPom. And Joey, did they make the tournament last year?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay,
Smith is gone though, and that's like NBA.
Yeah, they lost. Yeah, they lost to Creighton last year in the NCAA tournament. They finished last season 43 in the net. So this is a good program. Like you said, Joey, they will play either BYU or Arizona State. 2 again solid teams. I think BYU finished 84 in the net last year. Arizona State was up there, like top 60 in the net. So we'll get some Ken Pomeroy research on those teams. But Joey, any last comments here before we sort of move on to football? I know we do have some mailbag questions as well, so we'll get to some of those. But any parting thoughts on basketball?
Yeah, it'll be a really interesting 2 days to see what Vanderbilt really has. If it has its 3 guys back, I really want to evaluate this team without the preface of if it had Tyron Lawrence, if it had Van Lubin, if it had Lee Dort. It's pretty difficult to figure out what exactly they have right now. Obviously, they haven't looked great. They've gone through scoring droughts. They're shooting at 40% from the field, and in the low 30s from 3. The 3 isn't super concerning for me, but just seeing them struggle from the field is pretty concerning. And then seeing the lack of physicality they have right now, Evan Taylor mentioned that. That's disappointing as well, but when you get those 3 guys back, maybe you have something. Maybe you can rotate bodies a little bit. I'll also be interested to see how much depth they really have. I think there's a lot of guys playing out a role, playing out a position. And you look at a team like Purdue last night, Vanderbilt's not in that league right now. But you look at that and you say, man, they got 9 guys, and probably 8 of them could start at Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. And you look at Vanderbilt's roster and you say Ezra Manjon is a heck of a player in the SEC. Tyron Lawrence is a heck of a player. And then you look and say, well, this guy could start a few other places. I want to see how much depth they really have, Billy. Do they have 8 guys? Do they have 9 guys who are real kind of SEC fits and guys who can give them good minutes this year? It kind of feels like they do, but you haven't seen all those guys play up to their potential yet, like Paul Lewis, because Paul Lewis feels like he's forcing it a little bit without Tyron Lawrence in the lineup. It'd be interesting to see, does Vanderbilt really have that depth that Jerry Stackhouse talked about all offseason? We'll see. You've seen flashes of it, but when those 3 guys got to come back, everybody's got to slide into a role, and we'll see how much depth they have. Like I said, if they hold up a trophy on Friday night, I don't think you can quantify how much momentum that gets them this early in the season. You got to do it, though, and Vanderbilt athletics feels like that recently. We talk about, well, if they can do this, then this will happen. But they haven't really done any of that. So, Billy, I'm not a hater of this team. I don't think they're terrible. I think they've been hampered a lot by injuries. But what we've seen so far isn't good enough. And you look forward and you say, is it the same story again? We'll see. If it's not, it's a tremendous week for Vanderbilt. But it's hard to find optimism that it won't be, even though the guys are returning. In all likelihood, a few of them at least. I don't think they get all 3 back necessarily. But if they do get all 3 back, that doesn't fix all your problems. You still got to go win basketball games.
Vanderbilt and NC State, Thursday night, Joey, 9 o'clock tip-off. We got a question here from Knox Too Tall, picks for the tournament. And I'll start here, Joey. I'll go, I think Vanderbilt loses to NC State Thursday night, but I think they find a way, and it's weird because you don't know who they're playing yet. But I think it's sort of a situation no matter what. I think they'll be doing this a lot this season, Joey. Just survive to sort of keep moving and keep that glimmer of hope alive. I mean, they did that against the non-conference teams the last week or so. So I think they find a way to beat either Arizona State or BYU. but I think they lose to NC State. That's a good team, right? I know they lost a little bit from last year's team. They're still, like I said, a top 50 Ken Palm team right now. And so it's going to be tough, but I think you have another game, another kind of day to get Dort and Lubin kind of back in the fold. Maybe Lawrence comes back and plays for a little bit in that second game. And I think because they got to get one of these, Joey, and I think they will. I think they'll get one of them. Maybe it's reversed, but those are my picks. I think Vanderbilt loses to NC State, but I think no matter who they play, I think they win that second game.
My gut tells me they get one. I'm not sure which one that'll be. I think there's a chance BYU is the best team in this tournament, which is crazy for me to say. I don't know if I fully believe that, but I think a lot of people do believe that. I don't know their roster well enough to really make a prediction. I don't think Arizona State is super good. I think NC State on paper is probably the best team in the tournament. But if Vanderbilt has all three guys, then I'm definitely not ruling out them having all three guys. I was just kind of talking over myself there. I don't really know what they're going to have. A lot changes between Friday and Thursday. So I couldn't give you a full answer on what they're going to have. But also you look at NC State and they have the physical big. They have some older guards. They have three older guards. All three of them upperclassmen. Marcel's taking a leap as well. That's the guy I wanted to mention. I think they're going to be a middle of the pack ACC team. If Vanderbilt can beat that, I think that's something that you look to, not to hang your hat on, but you say, well, maybe they got something. That second game, I think, would be a lot easier if it's Arizona State. I think it'd be a lot more beneficial if it's BYU. It'll be interesting because I think Vanderbilt probably has better athletes than BYU has at this point. So I almost like that matchup better, even though Arizona State probably isn't as good of a team as BYU is. So I don't know which game they're going to get. I don't want to sound like an idiot saying they're going to lose to NC State and then they win by 20. But predictions get you in trouble, Billy, and I've learned that pretty quickly. So I don't make firm predictions. I kind of do coach speak predictions, but I guess they get one.
There it is. Coach speak prediction from Joey. Damani says Dort is the key. Need a lob threat for easy buckets during these scoring droughts and closing lineups. Totally agree. You get Dort back, and even if he's not 100%, Joey, that's a big deal because they just haven't. And credit to Carter Lang. I think Lang has done enough to sort of, merit himself as playing maybe more down the stretch of this season. He's not an offensive threat, of course, but I think defensively and rebounding, he's done well. As a freshman, he has looked ready to play and ready to compete out there. So Lang has done what he can, but the bottom line is you got to get Dort back. And if you do have him in Vegas, it sounds like they'll have him a little bit, I guess half the time, 10, 12 minutes or so, half probably his normal minutes that you'd like him to be at. But totally agree there, Joey. I mean, Vanderbilt doesn't have a lob threat right now, really, other than I guess one of their slashers, Colin. But I mean, they don't have a guy that can kind of lob it up to, or a guy that can even put something back up. Get a I haven't seen a put back dunk really. Like just grab a rebound and kind of Robbins was able to do I think a little bit. Dort a little sparingly last year, but Damani's right. Dort is the key.
Yeah, I think Dort adds an element of physicality that they don't have really anywhere else. I think Lubin and Dort are both really important for them. Lubin's not quite as physical as Dort in my mind, but I think Lubin can also get on the perimeter and hedge off screens a little bit, which can be valuable. I don't think Arizona State or NC State's guards are world beaters that you have to hedge off of to kind of stop them from getting downhill. But also, I think it's really helpful if you have that dimension and you have two guys who can rebound, because Dort's probably going to get in foul trouble against DJ Burns. So you'd like to have Lubin there to kind of counteract him. Lang, I think, can rebound a little bit with DJ Burns, but that's a whole new battle as opposed to what he's faced before. So we'll see. I also think there's value in, if you don't have either of them, playing Cometeros at the 5 and making DJ Burns go out and guard the perimeter and letting Cometeros get those open looks. I'm interested to see if Stack tries to take advantage of that at times with Cometeros at the 5, give up a little bit defensively, but have a more free-flowing offense where Cometeros can stand at the top of the key and Burns has to sit in the paint. And Burns has to go out and guard him, and you give Ezra Monyo a one-on-one with no shot blocker in the paint.
Thursday night, NC State and Vanderbilt, and whoever wins that will play the winner of Arizona State BYU. When would that next game be, Joey?
I don't know what should be Friday.
Okay. Okay, so should be Friday. Not sure what time yet. Depends on if they win or lose, and if they're playing the winner or the loser of that game. But we'll see. again, big week for Vanderbilt basketball. And, what I think the big question right now, Joey, how many minutes do those three guys play? All right, how much does Lee Dort play? How much does Lubin play? How much does Lawrence play? I think Dort is a guy that we know will play some. Lubin, I think we could both probably sit here and say you'll see Lubin as well. Tyron Lawrence, I'm more up in the air on. Which again, it's not the end of the world. It's a big tournament for Vanderbilt, especially where this team is at right now. You'd probably like to have Tyron, but again, you have to have Tyron for SEC play. So that's probably where they're at right now. They're not going to risk anything with him, to go to Vegas and get a win, because even Joey, if they go 0-2, it looks very, very dark. Like the path is hard to see. But last year showed that they can get close. Now, I still think you need one in Vegas. But we'll see. Thursday night, Vanderbilt, NC State, 9 o'clock Central Time on ESPN2. So you'll be able to find that channel fairly easily instead of scouring ESPN Plus for some of those. Joe, let's move on to football. And before we do, let's get to one of our reads here. John Leffen and the Maynard Nexen Government Contracts Group. They're sponsoring our Vanderbilt, Tennessee. I guess you could call this a preview somewhat. Maynard Nexen advises government contractors on all aspects of their businesses with a proud focus on matching legal solutions to business needs. Give them a call, 256-551-0171. And Joey, I will have an interview. I think I'm going to try to get Adam Sparks on, so we'll have that posted probably later this week. A little preview for you of this matchup. The only thing I really wanted to get at here, Joey, is the quote on the quarterback situation from Clark Lee. And it's just, it's funny to read that. And you're like, of course, of course this is a quote that was said. No, it's, and not being disrespectful at all. It's just kind of, it feels like in a weird way, Joe, it feels like everything's kind of funny with this team right now. And if
Billy, how do you not have a quarterback week 10 or week 12?
Well, this is Vanderbilt football, Joey. That's why. But no, Clark was asked about the quarterback situation last night on Commodore Hour. He said, "We feel like we have another opportunity to have the guys compete and see who best positions our team. We haven't been generating enough points." And I look at that, Joey, and I go, okay, think back to the past several weeks. He has, like when he was asked about it, he said, Ken's our guy. Ken's gonna give it a go for us. All of a sudden, that tune has changed, and I know there was an injury speculation about AJ Swan re-aggravating that elbow. I think before the Ole Miss game, Ole Miss week. So who knows, Joey? But at the end of the day, I think this means you could see AJ Swan. Now, I think at the end of the day, Ken Seals will play as well. I don't know that it does it matter. Probably not. I mean, I don't really think. I mean, if Swan's out there, you're more dangerous, but you're also dangerous in a bad way with the interceptions, right? I mean, we've seen that all year as well, Joey. That's kind of that's the bottom line with Swan. Like, yes, you are a more dangerous offense, but the defense could also score a touchdown on you just like that after a pick six, right? I mean, he's had at least 2 pick sixes this year. I think he's actually had 3 total. But nonetheless, Joey, Vanderbilt heads into this matchup, uncertainty at quarterback. Who knows how many players already know they're probably transferring out. Who knows how many of the coaches already know that they're leaving, right? Or they've decided, or the staff has decided to make a move. So it's just a weird situation. And again, Chris, as he goes back and listens to this, if he does, he'll start laughing at this point and basically tell us, guys, this is Vanderbilt. This has happened several times late in seasons. But Joey, Vandy and Tennessee, of course, historical matchup, but not sure how historical this meeting will be, especially with Clark Lee's quote about the quarterback situation.
When you have when you have 3 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, and that's about where I feel Vanderbilt's at. Billy, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. I'm beyond the point of having a prediction there. It's just whatever they want to throw out, they're going to throw out. And that's what they're going to do. Swan obviously gives them that element of higher variability, which can be good and bad. You probably want that more against Tennessee than other teams just because you probably have more ground to make up there than some other teams. But I really just want to see them not completely limp to the finish and get ran off the field like they did against South Carolina. I think that's not something you hang your hat on, but it's something you say, well, at least it wasn't 40.
Right.
And that's about where we're at right now with Vanderbilt. Feels like they're trying harder not to get blown out than they're trying to win. And I guess this week could be a similar tune. Like you said, I think there's a lot of staff changes coming. I think there's a lot of guys that are going to go in the portal. There's already been a guy to go in the portal. So I don't know that Vanderbilt has a whole lot left in the tank, but if it does, man, Billy, that would be a tremendous boost as you head into the offseason and some tremendous momentum. But going into Neyland, it's really hard for me to see a path to that. I think it's just kind of a formality that Vanderbilt has to finish this game, and you just wait for the fallout in the offseason to see what happens. It's crazy to say that about a rivalry game against Tennessee, by the way.
It is. It kind of is where this team is at right now. I'll say this. Tennessee is sort of, reeling. Now, we talk about Vanderbilt reeling. Obviously, they're reeling. But Tennessee, they're coming off back-to-back tough losses. Clark Lee said, that they'll still be ready to play. That doesn't matter, right? If anything, I think they'll want to take out a lot of their anger on Vanderbilt, and that's exactly what they did last year. I mean, Joey, think back to last year. Like, Vanderbilt went into that matchup, I think, with some excitement and some hope. That you got Tennessee coming into your house. This is your in-state rival. You're coming off 2 SEC wins, and all of a sudden, just boom, Tennessee lowers the boom on you and drops 56. And a lot of that hope and a lot of that excitement was gone. I mean, just like in a flash, And so now move on to this year. Do we have the same story? Like, and I put that as the thumbnail, I think a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. Any pride left? Basically asked the question on the thumbnail. And Clark Lee has a situation here on his hands where he's going to have to look at his staff and go, we got to find 22 guys that we can take with us to Knoxville, because that's all you need for football, right? Obviously, they're going to be taking more, but we need to find 22 guys that are going to give us the best chance to go beat Tennessee, right? And whether, if that, say, for example, that doesn't include good players like a Will Shepherd, or, even some guys that fans might think, how could you not play this guy, right? Or how could you not even take this guy on the trip? Like, what happened? He wouldn't help you win, right? So it's an interesting, not even crossroads, Joe. I mean, we're so past that.
It's
just kind of a.
That was UNLV.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to describe, like, where this team is at right now. But this is another opportunity, and I think if you're like being a human being and being a football player, you get one more chance. I mean, for these seniors, Joey, last chance you'll get to, go out on a football field. I think about a guy like a Kane Patterson. I know CJ Taylor will probably be back next year, but he tweeted out a video about some of his highlights against Tennessee last year. I think there's certain guys on this team that'll be excited and revved up to play because you are playing your in-state rival. But at the end of the day, will it be enough? Joe, I mean, we've seen that this team can be inspired and come out ready to play, but that doesn't mean it's enough, So the biggest thing I look at in this game is effort, right? Take the scoreboard away. Clark Lee said he was disgusted with the effort in the second half against South Carolina, as he should have been. Joey, this team should play with 100% effort 100% of the time against Tennessee. And if they lose 46-7, so be it. But at the end of the day, you play 100% effort that entire game, you're not going to get blown out. I mean, it's natural. Like, if Vanderbilt made stupid mistakes that second half. I know a lot of people kind of stopped watching, but wasn't it still 13-0 in the third quarter, Joey? And South Carolina just broke it open. So Effort, man. Joey, that's what I'm looking at, right? I'm not looking at cover, right? I'm not saying this team needs to cover. I'm just saying need to see some effort because you didn't see much effort in that fourth quarter against South Carolina.
Yeah, Billy, probably the biggest thing I'm looking at is also that how inspired are they? Probably tells you the most about anything. You look at, does Corkley have this team ready to respond to what it did at the end of South Carolina, or does it do that again? Does it come out and lay an egg and come out flat? We'll see. If they can come out and play inspired football, and even if they lose, I think that tells you something about Corkley. It also tells you a whole lot about where this thing is heading and what Corkley has if they come out and look like they don't want to be there. So effort's the biggest thing, I would say. It's really difficult to come into this game and look at X's and O's and how Vanderbilt can exploit this and that because it hasn't done that throughout most of the season. You have the receivers who are probably pretty comparable with Tennessee's, but the rest of this roster doesn't look where Tennessee's does, and you have to think Tennessee's going to come out ready to play. Can Vanderbilt come out ready to punch them in the face as well? We'll see. I think that tells you a lot about where this thing's heading long term, though, and maybe that's what I look for most. Obviously, you got to get up for Tennessee, though. If you can't get up for Tennessee, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, this is rivalry week for a reason. It's why it's the last week of the season, your last chance to get up, and whether you're 2-9 or not, whether you're fighting for a bowl game, whether you're 9-3, still matters, right? I mean, look at Alabama, Auburn. Auburn's gonna. That's at Jordan Hare, right? Auburn, what are they, Joey? 6-5, I think. So,
yeah.
They're gonna be ready to play. That's what rivalry week's about. It's hard to see a path though on Saturday for Vanderbilt. 2:30 kickoff though on the SEC network. Derrick Mason on the call on the SEC network. I like the tweet. I think that got some reception. Your tweet there, Joey, and but that'll be fun. I think it's. Obviously, Coach Mason gets a lot of slack, I think, for how it ended at Vanderbilt, but I think he's still respected widely in the coaching realm, and even by most Vanderbilt people. I think. I mean, he was able to beat Tennessee 3 times, so it'll be interesting, kind of him providing his perspective on that matchup because he was able to beat Tennessee 3 times. So, 2:30 kick, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, in Knoxville. Joey will be there. I'm sure Joey will have 5 things to watch for. Sometime this week. And like I said, we'll get kind of a mini preview pod out later in this week with Adam Sparks from out in Knoxville. So lighter coverage this week, but we will have a ton of basketball coverage that they'll be playing late Thursday night. Joey and I, I'm sure will be we'll be tweeting. It's nice. It's late, Joey. I'm glad, get the food out of your system and get the football out of your system and then relax and watch a little Vandy basketball. But no, looking forward to it. Joey, enjoy your Thanksgiving, my man. Looking forward to getting back at it next week. But everybody who watch and listen, thanks. We're gonna try these live episodes for the remainder of of the episodes here. I think it's a cool tool, especially when we get into basketball season. I'm not saying we'll do post game reactions, but we'll do some live stuff during the week and preview some of the big basketball matchups in the SEC. So we'll be doing a lot of cool stuff with that. But Joey, enjoy your Thanksgiving, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir. You too. Looking forward to the next time we're on.
All right, that's Joey Dwyer. I'm Billy Derrick, and I got a few parting messages here for you. Number one, give our podcast a review and a 5-star rating. That helps us get noticed. If you're listening and haven't subscribed to VandySports.com yet, please do. It's $99 a year and $9.99 a month. Helps us tremendously. Subscribe to our Vandy Sports YouTube channel. That is free. And finally, if you're interested in sponsoring the show, email Chris Lee at chrislee70@gmail.com. Again, that's chrislee70@gmail.com. Also, Anchor Impact, of course, big partnership with us and Anchor Impact. Go visit their website if you're interested in registering. That's anchorimpact.com/register. And even if you just want to learn about them, anchorimpact.com/register. For Joey Dwyer, I'm Billy Derrick. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your basketball Thursday night. Enjoy your football Saturday in Knoxville. Joey, safe travels. And we will see you next week.